live stream is on.
You're not missing anything.
But now, can you see us or not?
Yeah, I can see Sue and you.
Okay, great.
We can see ourselves.
Yeah.
I'm pointing at myself.
Look at that. You're on TV.
Can you make those pictures bigger on the screen?
Only if
yeah,
you switch, you can switch it to have.
Like if it was just Glenn.
Yeah, then you can switch the features so that if Glenn was the one talking, he'd be big.
Cool.
Right, everything's on and recording.
Okay, I do have that it is 5:00 p.m. on the East Coast, which means it's 4:00 Central Time. And I am going to call this meeting of the town board, the special town board meeting to order. It is Thursday, November 17th, 2022. And I will take roll call. Mike Anderson.
Here.
Amy Baxter.
Here.
Susan Brennan.
Here.
John Carlson.
Here.
And Glenn Carlson is here. Do we have any?
There is nobody here besides us,
I don't have anything either.
Michael and Caleb.
Okay. Next item then is 2023 budget consideration. And so I think this will be the part where we will discuss the various options that Barb and Michael put together, options 1, 2, 3, and 4, for us to discuss tonight. Obviously, we've all been advised that the Department of Revenue at the last minute changed their mind on how they view this county levy transfer. And so as a result of that, we have now found ourselves with basically the need to come up with a way to cover this deficit of $135,000. So I don't know, Michael, did you want to give any sort of overview or initial comments?
I apologize that it took a while to try to pull these together. We are all up against the wall in more ways than one. I tried to just give you a concept as to what each of these options is. And I will just say that obviously if we take the first two options in which the town absorbs all the costs of law enforcement, then it increases the strength of any legal case that we would pursue against the county if we require the county to absorb any or all of the law enforcement responsibilities on the island. Obviously, that is not, we would not be pursuing legal action against the county, but instead just using the levy funds that property taxpayers on the island now pay and getting direct services from the county. As far as the table on the back of on page 2 of the budget options, those match up with the resolution that we need to approve today, and we can get into that more later, but that's just what those are. Happy to try to answer any questions. I hope that the summaries are somewhat self-explanatory. And of course, Barb gave you the overviews of the line items so you can see the impact on various line items or departments.
Okay. Does appear, and Sue, you and I talked about this a little earlier today. From what I'm seeing, it appears that we are not allowed to basically pass two separate resolutions exceeding the 2022 levy limit. We can't pass a resolution where we exceed it both by the 5% plus the 135 at one, and then thing is that we don't have the option of presenting to the electors two separate recommendations for the 2022 or the 2022 levy payable in 2023. We can't say, okay, one option is to exceed our levy limit by the 5%, which is what our budget had anticipated. And then a second option is we'll increase it by the 5% plus 135,000 so that we would continue to provide 24/7, 365 police coverage. And then the townspeople would have the option of voting, do they want 24/7, 365 police coverage, in which case they would approve the levy that had that in it, or if they don't want the 24/7, 365, they still have the ability to approve the 5% levy increase. We have to do one or the other, is that right, Kayla?
Yeah, but, but I'm not 100% confident in that answer.
I think we've done two of them before. We've given them options.
I don't,
This is Michael, my understanding, talking with WTA lawyers, is that we have only the ability to give them one levy, XX levy number to vote on.
What would happen if they ask us?
what do you mean?
Well, if they say they don't agree with option number or whatever, and they say, is there any other options? What are we supposed to say?
The other option is to take the state allowable limit without any increase.
So we don't tell them any other options, is that what you're saying?
Right, there's just it's the one, so you kind of as a town board want to decide what number you want to present to the townspeople, whether it's just the 5%, whether it's the 5% plus the 135, or whether it's something in between.
So if we add the 135, it'd be another couple percentage points above
Correct.
5, so it could be 7%.
It would be a little more than that, but
Yeah.
Can they only vote on the levy, or can we have another, agenda item and have them vote on borrowing $135,000 against the fire supplement?
Amy, they don't need to vote on us borrowing money.
I know, but could we make it a vote so that we know if they want the police 24/7 or not? Like, to make it,
Good question.
could we word it differently so that we're not asking about the levy, but we're asking them a different question and getting the answer that we want in a different way?
I see what you're saying. There may be a way, but it's hard because we have to post this on this weekend. You know, we're technically trying to post this tomorrow and to give 15 days notice. And so I don't know how we would present the budget with that option.
Not knowing what their answer would be for the first question.
Right, because you then as a town board haven't necessarily adopted an amount to be approved yet. And I think you need to do that first.
Okay.
So, Amy, if I'm hearing what you're saying, what we could do is recommend a levy equal to a 5% increase from last year as our recommendation, and then we could have a second item or another item on the agenda that asks for their vote, even though it's not required, because the townspeople don't usually vote on borrowing, but it could be, I suppose, an advisory vote to the town board on borrowing the additional 135 to do the 24/7, 365 coverage.
Yeah.
I think we should remember and look at, that's obviously something that I would support to do, except for what kind of precedent does that set when we go, I mean, we would have to make sure that they understand that even if they vote no or yes, that we still would have the ability to disagree with that vote. Or maybe,
On the borrowing.
yeah, we don't, I'm thinking that we always have to ask for that, you know. So I think we would have to carefully word, like, okay, we're just wondering about the interest in this, or something like that, not interest in percent of interest rate, but, you know, of having 24/7, 365, you know, maybe we look at it more like, okay, so we are looking at borrowing this money, but we want to make sure the town supports what we're looking at borrowing this money for, even though we don't need their loan.
Yeah, and it would be, Michaela, so we could, I guess, word that this is an advisory vote, and it's to increase our borrowing by an additional $135,000, because we're already gonna be borrowing, so it would be by that additional. Is that something we can do, Michaela?
It sounds to me like that you would be going with budget option 1 on the menu,
I'm not.
Okay, but if this was the choice, and that's how you would present it to the townspeople, but during the public hearing and then thus the special town meeting, you could feel it out, and because you have not necessarily approved your budget, it wouldn't change the levy. So after that's all over and you have your special town board meeting to approve the budget, you could decide to take that or leave that. I think that sounds fair and normal, because if you present, you know, say this 135 is completely non-existent, you go to the townspeople and you ask them for the 5% levy increase and they say no, they'll still, you know, hopefully do the state allowable limit, and then you as a town board can still decide to borrow that $89,000 too. So I think that's fair, but I think it should be presented in the budget so that they can see what the numbers look like, and then at your special town board meeting that night at the end, that's when you would finalize whether yes or no you're gonna do that.
And that's what we've done in the past.
And I think that sounds fair, workable.
And I don't have those options in front of me, Michaela, and so budget option 1, again,
Was
you
to,
could just give,
is to pretty much keep the current budget proposal, except there's a slight increase in legal fees, and that you would increase your borrowing by $135,000, and that it still also is raising the levy by 5% and using the carry forward.
okay. And then if you could refresh me on option 3.
Option 3 is the 3/4 coverage by the town and 1/4 coverage by the county, which still ends up being the 5% levy increase, the carry forward, plus some borrowing, but not as much.
So really the difference between option 1 and option 3 is the levies stay the same in option 1 and option 3.
Yeah,
all of the options have your 5% increase in there, and the carry forward, so those are all the same in all the options.
We don't have an option that has.
Oh, sorry, yes, in option 4.
So if I may, so options 1 and option 3, they both are the 5% excess levy vote. In option 1, essentially we are borrowing $135,000 in essence to plug the hole that enables us to operate 24/7 police coverage on our own. Option 3, we split police coverage between the town and the county and borrow only an additional amount or cut other expenses to close about a $21,000 gap that remains.
Okay, thank you. So, people, Mike?
I like option 3. I always have, and I always will. Well, would like the county to chip in 135, but if they won't, then I like option 3.
Okay, and Mike, thank you. If I can just clarify that option 1, if we go with option 1, that does not preclude us from adjusting the budget to decrease the police budget by 135
except for option 3 still has the borrowing you've already agreed on, so there still is.
Well, so does option 1.
Yeah, just because you said no borrowing, so just to clarify, there still is borrowing, just not an additional amount.
Got it, okay, thank you. So Mike, you've responded, you like option 3, which.
I like option 3 because the state statutes require that the sheriff's department covers the island and they're not doing it, they won't do it. And I don't believe in going against state law.
Sure.
Plain and simple.
And, yeah, and as far as a lawsuit, I would propose, Michael and Mike, that if we do say we provide 3/4 coverage and they don't provide the other quarter, we have grounds to sue them, not for the levy issue, but we do probably have some grounds to sue them on not providing state required coverage.
That is my understanding, but obviously, if we are trying to sue them for either getting the money back through the levy or having a stronger case in not providing equal coverage to the island, if we are expecting them and they make even a token effort, it weakens, any legal argument we might make.
I think the lawsuits won't be through the town, I think it'll be through private citizens.
Okay. Thank you, Mike. Okay, so, Amy?
I like budget option 3, unless someone thinks that we have a really strong winnable case by using option 1. But my initial reaction is budget 3.
Okay. And I, just again to clarify, Michaela, if we do go with option 3, could we put down on the agenda an additional advisory vote from the electors on borrowing an additional $135,000?
No, we gotta use 1.
I mean, you can still ask them what they want, but the budget will be presented that with the police department coverage as 3/4, 1/4. Sorry. It's too many things. So I don't know.
Okay, well, that's a definite I don't know. Okay. Susan, you're with option 1 then, I'm guessing.
You didn't count anyone else's, but I'm with option 1.
Yeah, okay.
And I also think, Michael K. said option 1 and option 2 would be things that we could potentially have legal action with the county, and maybe even, I don't know, the state, if the state's not going to enforce it, the county does this for us. And also, I don't want to see us without police coverage. So I'm with option 1. No surprises there.
Okay, thank you, Susan. John?
Oh, I'm for option 3. I don't want to borrow any money to pay people. And I think if we could try it for a year, and if it doesn't work very well, we can always ask the electors next year about putting in the extra money. But we have to remember, it's always going to go up. With wages go up, that 135 is going to go up with vehicles and everything else. And I think that somewhere in the budget, we can remove the $20,000.
All right, well, it sounds like we have a majority, and I'm also inclined to go with option 3. So it looks like we do have a majority to go with option 3. Now, and that being the budget, if we did decide, adopting the budget and adopting the levy, that we did want to restore the police budget to full coverage, what would would we have to go back to the electors, even though there was no increase in the levy, because we're making a substantial change to a department budget?
No,
Michaela?
no, that's all your decision, it has nothing to do with the electors.
That's what I was thinking, Glenn. If it turns out, if we find out in June that this decision is failing bad, we can always go back to a full-time law enforcement agency and still cover our bases that way, without any elector support.
Okay. Thank you, Mike. Okay, so, John, you mentioned that thought that, you wanted to look for other places to save the additional 20,000. Am I hearing that right?
Yes. I would think that we could eliminate the sidewalk that's been going on for 3 years, and that would save us $36,000.
What do others think on that, Mike?
I guess I haven't really given it a lot of thought. If there's money, if we can come up with some money, yeah. I mean, if we can cut something, yeah.
Any suggestions on what, Mike?
No, because I haven't really given any thought to this now. I thought we were done cutting. But I can understand John's point, and, well, it's an option.
Okay, Amy?
I think we could just borrow the 20 against the fire truck.
Okay, Susan?
I agree with Amy.
Okay, and I agree with Amy. So we'll go with, the borrowing on the 20,000, and we'll keep the sidewalk in, we'll keep everything else that's in, and we'll just focus, on the, really, I mean, it sounds like we're in agreement not to try to get the townspeople to approve a levy that includes the 135,000. Is that fair? Mike?
Yeah. That's
Okay.
fair.
And Sue, it sounds like you would either borrow the money or increase the levy by the 135.
Yes, I'm just concerned with the Islanders' safety, yes.
Okay, and Amy, I skipped you, sorry. But if you are not in favor of increasing the levy by the 135, is that correct?
Yeah.
And John, it sounds like you are also not in favor of increasing the levy recommendation by the 135.
That is correct.
Okay, and I agree with that. Yes, Susan?
I want to make sure that I'm not saying that I want to increase the levy by 135. I'm saying I am for asking the electors what their opinion is on that. And then if they did it, I would say yes. So it's not like I'm just throwing money out the window. I'm just concerned for the safety of people. So I think the townspeople, like we were talking about, there may be others that have the same opinion as me that would be willing to have it increased by 135 if it meant safety for the island and the visitors and, the children here.
Okay, and it sounds though, Susan, that we cannot, if I'm hearing Kayla correctly, we can't have a recommendation on the 135 to include that in the levy, and also have, if they vote that down, we're then stuck with the state allowable limit on the levy.
Okay.
And so it sounds like we probably don't have the choice of increasing the levy by the 135 from a practical standpoint. And the only option would be if the townspeople would, and I guess even if we don't put it down as an advisory vote, Michaela, we can have discussion right after the levy vote.
Yep.
So we could have discussion after the levy vote on whether the townspeople are, without having a formal vote perhaps, of whether they're in that an agenda item to just have it for discussion, without it being a formal vote.
Do you think you want that agenda item to just say something about, law enforcement on Madeline Island just in general, so that you can have, and its budget, I mean, kind of like that, I mean, you know, I could word it, you know, in terms of the 135,000, but why not just leave it open and have the, agenda item say something along the lines of La Pointe Police Department or La Pointe.
I'd just say something like possible reduction of hours for police coverage or something like that. Or reduction of hours.
It would be a possible increase of hours.
Or,
Yeah, cause we'd
depending,
be, yeah, cause we'd be paying 2/3.
Yeah, so if we go with the 5% on the levy, don't do anything on the levy for the 135 increase, then the next item would be, let's discuss the potential of borrowing to increase police coverage.
we're not gonna get in any trouble by informing the public what our problem is. We're not gonna get in any trouble with it.
Because even if you didn't bring it up with them at all, and come June, there's a problem, and you somehow need $100,000 to cover some other cost, you can make the decision to do that and have a budget amendment, so I don't see the problem in preemptively having a discussion about it.
Okay, thank you. All right, are we ready to move on to, item 4, which is, our proposal to exceed the 2022 levy limit? From what spring, that our proposal would be to exceed it by the 5% plus the carryover. Is that
So,
good?
item number 4 is just the 5%, and then item number 5 is the carryover, there's actually 2 different resolutions for those items, yeah.
So that's, I think, where we are. Are we ready to move forward on item 4?
Just a clarification, this resolution is not just the 5%, it's also the adjustments.
The adjustment being.
The 435,574 in adjustments.
Which is part of the levy worksheet and everything.
So,
But it's in his email.
Right. But that,
And the carry forward is included in those adjustments.
okay, that's maybe the confusion. All right, so I think the next item then, shall we move on to item 4, which is resolution 2022-1117, proposing to exceed the 2022 levy limit, payable in 2023. And what kind of motion, Michaela, do we need on that?
she just stepped on, so.
Michaela stepped down. I believe
What's the question?
what we need to do, using the fill in the blanks that you have in front of you, we would increase the levy to a total of $1,871,395.
Okay, is there a motion to that effect? Anyone at all?
I would make the motion, I wrote the number down.
Well, so it's this resolution, but because there's all these fill in the blanks, because we didn't know what you wanted, it would be, if you follow option 3, it's this total right here, the 1,871.
Okay, I will make a motion to approve resolution number 2022-1117, proposing to exceed tax levy limit for 2022 tax levy payable in 23 in the amount of $1,871,395.
Sounds good.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Michaela, do we need a roll call or just a voice vote?
Just a regular one.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And motion carries. Next item, which is pretty cut and dry, to resolution 2022-1117A. The previous year's unused carry forward. And the amount of that was 11,000.
1,779.
Thank you.
I make a motion that we approve resolution 2022-1117A to carry forward the $11,379.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded, deeper discussion. Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Item 6, I think is irrelevant at this point, is that correct?
That is correct.
Do we need to table that or just?
No,
table it? Do we need to
no,
do that?
it's non-existent anymore.
Okay.
I'm waiting for it.
Okay, so that's, item 7 is further public comment. And I would just say, Michaela, when you do the, notices for the, levy meeting, if you would add them after, we've taken care of the things that the townspeople need to vote on, that we add an agenda item, discussion, of law enforcement budget, and increase and possibly increasing the police coverage from what was budgeted.
Okay,
Okay, does that, Mike, does that meet what you were?
I might just leave it as law enforcement, police department budget.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna leave it open.
vague.
Yeah.
Yeah, leave it vague.
Okay.
And depending on what occurs at that meeting, then Michael will instruct the police chief to schedule his guys, however this ends up, right?
We already have,
Yeah.
Pretty much.
yeah, I'm sorry, we already have, temporary schedules worked out as to what shifts the town would cover, what shifts each officer would cover, and what shifts would be the responsibility of the sheriff's deputies.
Do you know, like, we approved the hiring of the part-time person, is that,
He is included in that rotation. I mean, we gave you a summary in the memo. Essentially, the chief would work 86 hours in a pay period. The other full-time officer would work 80 hours in a pay period. And the two part-time officers would split, I think it was 84 hours.
so you guys already discussed
We've already discussed that.
it? All right.
And we don't want to
So the
pass
real-
up the opportunity of having another officer.
And so what would happen, let's say that when we get to the agenda item where we're gonna have a discussion with the electors about the law enforcement budget after the discussion, after the votes on the levy. If there's a strong, sense that people want for some 365, even if it requires us borrowing money to do it, if they do that, then, we will probably, when we adopt the budget, can we just restore that, or would we adopt the budget that we're presenting and then restore it as a budget amendment? Michaela?
I think either is an option. You would want, if you think you're gonna adopt something other than what's presented, you would wanna have another draft, like have Barb draft 2 different ones, and then you pick which one with the total expenditures and revenues equaling X, and then the other one with Y, so you can just pick it and be done. Or if you still don't really know what you wanna do, you can just go with the one that you presented and make a change later. I think either.
Again,
Is
remember,
there a strong,
the budget that's presented at the town electors meeting is an advisory budget. They can advise us, but it is ultimately the town board's decision at a later meeting, whether that's that night or at a later meeting, what actual budget to adopt. And so you will have the opportunity to either use a budget with borrowing or use a budget without. And that will, of course, affect staffing and the police numbers, but it won't affect what the townspeople say or don't say.
I think, Glenn, I think that you or Michael should plan on being able to brief these people who show up for this meeting, you know, how we came to this, how we derived at where we're at today, and how it's happened, because a lot of them don't know.
And, just so you know, I'm planning an agenda item for your meeting, your regular meeting on Tuesday, it's just preparing for that meeting, the
Okay.
elected meeting on the 5th, so that you can have a further discussion on what you wanna present, what you wanna have prepared.
But instead of having a free-for-all, you know, people, what about this, what about, you know, if you just figure out ahead of time what you're gonna tell them to, how we came to this decision, what made us come to this decision, you know?
So it sounds like the budget that we're going to present will be the budget that has the reduction in the police coverage by the town. And then if the sentiment of the electorate is to restore that to full coverage by the town, we can amend the budget at a subsequent meeting.
Right.
Yeah, you wouldn't even have to have your special town board meeting to approve the budget on the 5th, you could have it later, and you need to do it before December 31st, but then even, you know, after that, you can always amend.
Got it. Okay. Thank you. So is everyone clear on where we are?
Yes.
Yeah.
Got it?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I guess even more importantly, are Michael and Kayla clear on where we are?
For now,
Yeah.
we know how to fill in the blanks, that's what we need to
Yeah.
know now.
Okay. Very good. Well, I think we have no other business, so I would entertain.
Glenn,
Yes, ma'am.
I just wanna say next Tuesday I'll need to call in.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other matters that we can discuss? All right. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Oh, well, I can ask you.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
1 second.
John got it.
Moved and seconded. And thirded. Okay, Lauren. Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.